Brainstorm, bringing great minds and ideas together, exploring a wide variety of opportunities, achieving academic excellence, using the latest technology, government's impact, preparing for 21st century careers, parenting and health issues, topics shaping tomorrow. Brainstorm with Lisa Willever, bringing great minds and ideas together.
Welcome to Brainstorm. I'm Lisa Willever, and today we're talking about first responders and safety. Before we begin, let's learn a little bit more about our topic. Sirens and flashing lights often mean someone is in trouble and help is on the way. But what can the public do to ensure a positive outcome? From changing the batteries on smoke detectors, to practicing fire prevention methods, to moving over when an emergency vehicle approaches, we can all make a difference to save lives and property and get those first responders safely home after each shift. So joining me today, I have a very special guest, my husband, Battalion Chief Todd Willever from the Trenton Fire Department. Todd, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
It's good that you're pretending you had a choice. So tell me about your background. Let the viewers know what your background in fire is.
I've been a firefighter for over 25 years. I was captain for over 10 years, and the past 2 years I've been a battalion chief in the city of Trenton.
So when we talk about first responders, just by definition of the title, are usually first to appear on the scene. But your job goes way beyond that because you also spend a lot of your time preventing things from happening and doing things that will help people avoid being in those perilous situations. The first one that comes to mind, smoke detectors. They're extremely inexpensive, not very complicated to use, and they make a huge difference. So talk to me about the importance of them and then some of the problems. Why not everybody has one?
Well, a smoke detector cuts down on emergencies, if early warning signs. So if we can prevent a catastrophe from happening in the early stages, you know, a small fire, something small that we can cut down, then it's not a big emergency. We can prevent it from, you know, becoming a full-blown emergency.
So you work in an urban area, the city
Yes.
of Trenton, and like many urban areas across the country, a lot of people may have low income, they have a lack of resources, so something as simple as the batteries of a smoke detector becomes a huge issue. Twice a year, we change our clocks, we tell people change the batteries. Talk about the batteries and why they're so important, especially taking them out for, say, the remote control or something else that you need a battery for.
Yeah, there's been many times we go into houses and the detector's up on the ceiling, however, has no batteries, and it's because their remote control and their TV, I guess their batteries went dead, so they pull them 9 volts out and they use them. At this day and age, the new detectors are going to a 10-year battery life.
Oh, okay.
And with that being, it's a special battery. You cannot remove it. There's no possible way to remove it. So it's not good for remote control, and it does have a 10-year
toy or anything else people might use it for.
So it has a 10-year lifespan. And so when that's done, then you would replace the battery, but therefore you would not have to replace them twice a year, as you would a normal battery-operated detector.
Now, some houses have hardwired where they're actually wired in together into a system, but then some people, especially in urban centers, you know, they have just the one that you put up on the ceiling. So when they start hearing it beep, and it gets very annoying for a reason, what is that beep telling them to do?
Well, yeah, the beep is a warning sign that your battery's going bad, so you'd have to replace the battery. So these, so people that aren't changing them twice a year or even once a year, they'll wait till the beep and then they'll change them. Battery backups are fantastic, but they still need that battery. So a power outage, and you would have to replace the battery.
How about the carbon monoxide detectors? They're also important too, correct?
Oh yeah, carbon monoxide detectors, extremely important. They give early warning signs of carbon monoxide anytime there's gas-fired appliances or your heater. They're extremely important because carbon monoxide is odorless and you can't smell it.
Yeah.
You can't see it, so they're extremely important to have them detectors operating safely.
So now, I know people kind of know this, it's always in the back of your mind, but explain how important every second is, why this early response is so important when it comes to a house fire, especially if it's something where it's in the evening, overnight, and people are sleeping.
Yeah, so smoke detectors, they'll give early warning signs. Before if you're sleeping, you're not going to be able to smell the smoke as early as a smoke detector would give a warning. And there's the old saying that a fire doubles in size every 1 minute.
Okay, say that again. A fire doubles in size.
Doubles in size like every 1 minute.
Every 1 minute. So if you're
depending on the fuel and the oxygen available and what kind of fire it is, but that's a general saying.
So something that might have been a small fire and would have been detected with a smoke alarm, if you're sleeping, by the time that smoke or somebody notices it, somebody might be banging on your door. In that amount of time, if it's 10 minutes, that could be your whole home. You could lose everything. People could die.
Yes, and when you're sleeping, your senses aren't as strong. The ability to smell smoke is not that strong. So, early detection is the key.
So, October, generally across the country, is Fire Prevention Month, and that's where you often see little kids visiting firehouses, wearing little plastic hats, firefighters visit schools, and there are a lot of messages we want to give children, and we have a lot of parents who watch this show. So please tell the parents, what are some of the things they should stress at home besides what the kids learn at school in October?
Well, the kids, first of all, if they see an emergency, it's, dial 911. But we also stress not to stay in the house, to get out of the house. That's number one important thing, to get out of the house.
Okay.
As you're leaving the house in a controlled manner, and tell your parents, scream fire, fire, that you hear the detector going off or you see a fire, get out, because products can be replaced, your toys can be replaced, but you cannot replace your life. So
should they have a meeting place when they get outside? Like one specific place where they always go no matter what?
Yeah, we always, we stress EDITH, which is exit drills in the home. And that is, you do your fire exits, your emergency exits, you get out, and you always have two ways out. And when you do get out, you always have that one meeting place, because if your one exit is blocked, you go to that second exit, but you still need that meeting place, which is the big tree out front, the mailbox, something that is
neighbor's house,
that
if
everybody
you live close.
knows where that exit is. So when the firefighters do get on scene, we know, or you can account for who is still in the house, who is not in the house, and you give an accurate description of where that person that is not at the meeting place, where they might be, what room they stay, and where they possibly could be. And that would cut down on your best chance of survival.
So the most important thing is to get out, especially for kids. We
out.
want them out. The next thing is to, some kids do have cell phones, or they could go to a neighbor's house, but call 911. 911 is pretty easy to remember, but there are a lot of younger kids who aren't sure of their address. Would you, ask parents to make sure their children know their address?
Yes, and that's the biggest thing with back in the day with hardwired phones. When you call 911, they knew exactly, they could pick up your address. With cellular phones nowadays,
some can, some can't.
They just pick up in an area, so you would have to tell your address to give an accurate location. So you should know to call 911, but then know your address, that you can give an address and what's wrong. You always want to state your address and what's your emergency.
We did one episode about 911, and one of the things we learned was stay on the line. So the kids should know, don't just call and hang up.
Yes.
Once you leave and you call 911, stay on the phone with them. Should they also be told, even though it's an emergency and it looks scary, to try, once they get out, just be calm, because they'll get better service that way? And even for adults, that's kind of a universal. Yeah,
it's a pretty traumatic event when you're calling in a fire, you see a fire, and it's, someone that you love or care about is trapped, but try to remain calm, because the better information you can provide, it goes a long way.
Now, there's one message that I've always heard, and I'm sure it's still valid, which was stop, drop, and roll, which was if they were on fire. to stop, drop, and roll. When I taught 4th grade, I would always say to my students, especially in October, what happens if your house is on fire? And they immediately would say, stop, drop, and roll. And I said, but you're not on fire. And they said, yeah, but the fireman said stop, drop, and roll. So let's just really explain that's not what you do if you're not on fire.
Yeah, stop, drop, and roll is if your clothes are on fire. And
just to extinguish that.
It's to extinguish that and to smother that out. What we like to say in our department, in our city, is get low and go. Okay. Get low and go because the smoke is high and the better air, fresh air, any breathable air is always at the floor level. So we would like to get low and go as fast as you can if there is smoke.
And that raises a valid point. I think a lot of people, if you watch fire shows on television, you see people walk in, their buttons are on, their jackets are unbuttoned and their mask is off and they're walking through the fires. Tell the viewers, how do you normally go through when there is an active fire?
Yes, just because we're firefighters, we cannot walk. We have to get low because we can't stand the heat. We wear our protective clothing, and it does protect our skin, and we have our mask that we can breathe. But the heat is still very intense at the ceiling level and the higher levels, so we also crawl in.
So that's important because, you're doing it, you're the professionals. I think it's good for the kids to know that if you're doing it, that's what they definitely need to be doing because they don't have protective gear and a mask. Another thing I would love for parents to talk to their children about is not to hide. That's a big problem with children, isn't it?
Yeah, we're, a lot of kids, they feel they've done something wrong. If there is a fire, they were a reason for starting the fire.
Or they're just scared.
Or very scared. And they will hide in a closet, under a bed. They'll think the fire can't get them. The fire will find you in that sense. So you have to, you can always deal with the problem later, but you have to get out. So don't hide. Firefighters are your friend. That's all we like to say.
Well, that's it too, not to be afraid of firefighters.
We look very...
look a little intimidating with the gear on.
Intimidating, different when we wear our mask and we have our breathing apparatus, and it sounds a little like a Darth Vader type voice. But we're your friend. We're there to help. We're going to get you out.
It's probably why visits to the firehouse are important, not just for schools, but citizens can bring their children to their local firehouse. Yes. And the firefighters will always show the kids the equipment, show them the truck, and this way they see the uniform. Sometimes they get to put it on themselves. It's not as scary at that point, and that could help save their lives down the road.
Yes.
All right, we are going to take a break, and we will come back with some more fire safety tips. So we will be back in just a moment with more Brainstorm.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Brainstorm. We're talking about first responders and safety, and I'm back with Todd Willever, Battalion Chief from the City of Trenton. And we were just talking about fire prevention and things that will help ensure that people can get out of their home safely if there is a fire, any kind of emergency. I know sometimes, though, people are hesitant to call 911 and call in the fire department, whether they're embarrassed, they think they can handle it, or what if it turns out to be nothing, which is a good thing, but people are afraid if they've made the call, maybe to get in trouble. So talk about the importance of calling when you think something may be wrong.
Yeah, early prevention, anytime the early you make a call and we can start responding, it will cut down on a large catastrophe.
So in other words, you're in the kitchen and you're cooking and something starts to catch on fire. Should you work on trying to put it out, or should you call first? And then if you think you can, put a lid on it, but shouldn't you call first before you do anything?
Yes, a lot of calls we do get, and after interviewing the occupant, they said, well, I tried to put it out, and I thought I had it out, and all of a sudden it was up in the ceiling or the cabinets were on fire. So a lot of them, they try to put it out themselves and it didn't work. And I'm sure there are cases where people were successful at putting them out, but if you call 911 first and then you could try to put it out if you feel it is still in the small, early stages. But it's best to call and get out of the house, and we'll come and we'll take care of it.
And then you kind of get like a professional opinion. Yes, this fire is out. Instead of an hour later, you ran to the store and came back and you have no more house.
Yes.
Because I know for a fact that happens. And like you said, people think they have it all under control. What happens if you call and there's no fire? Will somebody be in trouble?
No, not per se. If it was a good intent, if they had good intentions, they thought it was their oven was on fire, or they had a good reason.
Or even
for
like a
calling
neighbor's house.
Yes.
They thought they saw smoke.
Or sometimes there's smoke from people, car backfires or
chimney when you first put your heater on.
Chimneys, So people call a lot with smoke coming from the chimney, and it's like a heater, a heater backfire malfunction. It's okay that they call as long as they're not doing it maliciously.
So a good intent call, absolutely. You welcome those. It gives you a chance if something is wrong to get there and save time. But there are times when you get calls that are maliciously called in to report fires that are non-existent. Talk about those.
They're done for several reasons. A kid will do it. A lot of times a kid will do it because they just want to see the fire trucks. They want to see us ride by. They like to see the lights and siren and see us. They are very dangerous because we're putting lives of not only taking our resources away from another emergency that could happen, it's taken away we're going at higher rates of speed. We are our adrenaline is pumping. It could cause a car, motor vehicles in front of us to go into traffic they wouldn't normally go into. So it raises a lot of concern all the way around.
Okay, so we definitely want to make sure there are no malicious false alarms. So besides fire, your department, like departments across the country, you work on so many different fronts. You not only do fire, but you do EMS. So you are emergency medical service. You get there often before the paramedics and the ambulance arrives. So talk to me about what are some of the things people can do to make it all go smooth when you are coming to respond to a medical emergency.
Yes, first thing is when we do arrive on scene, it's good to have someone there, whoever made the call or somebody that's very familiar with the patient or person in distress, to give us accurate information. First of all, their name, their age, and any medical history that they would have.
Oh, I didn't even think about the medical history
that they would have in the medical history in the past, their prior condition. So, and that right there, we could start to guide which way do we treat this patient.
So with assessing a patient, any background information you have, and then you pass that along to the paramedics when they arrive.
Yes, and also what medicine, they might be on medicine that will contradict to what we might give them.
Okay. Now, what about CPR? Do you advise residents to know CPR?
Yes, CPR it's the first, it's probably the most important thing a citizen can know. Red Cross offers it in most communities. And there are other places that you could sign up for CPR. Early CPR will save a life.
Now, I know people see it on TV a lot, and sometimes they think because they've watched people do it on TV and in a medical show that they know how to do it. But there is a difference between CPR for an adult and CPR for a child or an infant, correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And that's it. You have to,
So take the class.
take the class. They're always changing different things, but early CPR is always a lifesaver.
So another thing that fire departments often respond to are motor vehicle accidents. And sometimes they're minor, which, you know, we're always happy about. But they can also be involved where the jaws of life are necessary, where people have hit a pole, you know, traffic lights, various things, other vehicles that may have, you know, chemicals. So there's a lot of variables and things that can go wrong. But for a basic accident, when people do have some injuries, what's your advice?
First thing is, if the person is complaining of any neck or back injuries, do not move them.
Or even unconscious, right? Because they're not there to tell you, they're not awake.
Yeah, if they're not conscious, do not move them. Don't try to drag them out of the car. However, if the car is on fire, it's always better to get them out of the car because their injuries could be dealt with afterwards. But if the car is not on fire, no immediate reason to remove that person from the vehicle. Wait until medical services and fire department arrive on scene, and we can assess and we could properly stabilize that person.
And things like a collar and a backboard would make a big difference if somebody does have a minor neck or back injury. What about, and this is something I always worry about, is when a wire comes down. When you see cars, and I've seen them before where the wires are on the car, please talk about that one. Yeah,
if anytime electrical wires are draped over a car, if they're resting on a car, they could be live wires, they could be sparking. It is okay, stay in the car, because once you step out and make contact with a car and the ground, you are now grounded and you will electrocute yourself.
Okay.
So if the car is not on fire, just sit tight, and first responders may get on scene and tell you just don't move, and we cannot do anything ourselves. However, we're going to call for the power companies once they kill the power or secure the power. Then we will remove you from the vehicle.
So, definitely when first responders arrive, do what they tell you to do.
Yes.
Because at that point, as you mentioned before, people are in shock. It's traumatic situations. So we really have to, when we're not in those situations, remind ourselves, if that happens, we have to listen because it could save our lives. There are so many fire hazards. Let's just briefly go through some of them. Frayed extension cords and nowadays overloaded cords and outlets. Can you talk about what a danger they can be, especially like under a rug?
Yeah, in the older houses, there's not as many outlets, and then there's more electrical appliances nowadays.
Okay.
So most people are going out to, they go out and they'll buy a power cord, power strip. And sometimes you might get a better deal, but it has to be Underwriter Laboratory tested.
So UL listed, okay.
UL listed. And when it is listed like that, it fits the specifications and it's safe.
Okay.
But
so it's not something you want to buy a bargain extension cord or a bargain power strip and then plug all your stuff into it.
And what you want to do is cut down on long runs with extension cords. So.
Oh, don't put 12 together.
Yeah, don't put and high-powered, air conditioners, they use a lot of power. They generate a lot of heat with extension cords, and they will melt an extension cord, and that will cause curtains or rugs to catch on fire.
All right, well, that's excellent information and advice. Are you ready to play Brainstorm?
Sure.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do in the tradition of brainstorming, we have 8 ideas here. If they're good ideas, we keep them. If they don't sound right to you, you're going to ball them up and you're going to try to make a basket. These are all the ones that people have made. No pressure. Here we go. Idea 1. First responders run towards danger when others run away. Okay. Yes. And we all thank you for that. Number 2, first responders prefer that others run away.
Yes.
You don't want the civilians running in next to you, do you? Number 3, you can get in trouble if your report doesn't turn out to be a fire.
Yes.
Okay, you will not. It's called a good intent call. Very good. Number 4, if a fire truck is approaching with lights and sirens, pull over.
Yes.
Please, right?
Yes, please pull over. And that's Get out of the way.
And if you're not sure where they're coming, stop so that you don't pull over into them. Okay, number 5, smoke detectors aren't that important.
They're very important.
And also places like, I know in the Philadelphia area, 6ABC, they have a Save a Life program.
6 Save a Life, they donate detectors to departments and we go out and install them so they're in the correct spot.
So anybody watching, if you don't have a smoke detector, call your fire department. They may be able to come right out and put one in for you. Number 6, children must be taught not to hide during a fire.
Yes.
Okay. Number 7, fire drills can save lives.
Yes.
And we're not just talking about in school or in the workplace or in a college, we're talking about in the house. Go over this with your kids, maybe at the change of seasons. You know, when we change the clocks and you change the batteries, maybe have a fire drill and always tell the kids this is where we will meet.
And have your meeting place, correct.
Okay. If you smell smoke, try to find the source and put out the fire yourself.
No?
Okay, there you go. And I definitely think...
Especially if you don't know where it's coming from, definitely get out and we will come and take care of it.
Well, and that's the key. You have a fire department for a reason. You are professionals. You know, I run away when I see danger. You run toward it. So everybody call your fire department if there's anything that doesn't seem right, and they will come out. And if it's not, then that's even better. So I want to thank you very much for being a guest today. And I want to remind everybody there, check your smoke alarm, your smoke detector batteries, and make sure your kids know how to get out of the house. Make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector. And we will see you again on the next episode of Brainstorm.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.